Beautiful Women by Cam Melville and Chief Yellow Mustard. And we really have some beautiful women in the studio tonight, too. Irene Cruz, Teresa B. Thompson, Earlene Anthony. We're going to be talking about some veterans issues. And may the peace and blessings of the life-giving creative spirit be upon you and upon your family. My name is Melvin Ishmael Johnson, coming at you live from Skidrow Studios. And I'm in the studio with my co-host, Earlene Anthony. Our call-in number is 1-800-893-9562. This week on the Coomran Report, we will talk about housing for veterans with our monthly section, Veterans Advocacy Connection, hosted by military veterans Irene Cruz and Teresa B. Thompson. I'm delighted to have with us in the studio Irene Cruz and Teresa B. Thompson. Welcome to the Coomran Report.
Thank you, Melvin.
Let's start off. Can you tell our listening audience just a little about your background and the goal for Veterans Advocacy Connection?
My name is Irene Cruz. I'm a 6-year Marine Corps veteran. I've been very active in the veteran community. Actually, earlier this year, I was named the 2014 CalVet Woman Veteran Leader of the Year. And we actually had a tie. There was another women veteran who, this was the first time that they had a tie for this award. I'm chair of the Minority Women Veterans Conference, which we recently held at the Proud Bird. I'm also chair of a labor union's Veterans Caucus. I'm a member of the American Legion, and I'm their Veteran Affairs and Rehabilitation Commission for the Department of California. There are 6 of us throughout the state, and I represent the Los Angeles area. Also, there's a branch of the American Legion called the Los Angeles County Council, and I am the vice commander representing women, as well as I also collaborate with a number of other veteran-minded organizations to do different things throughout the veteran community.
Okay. And Teresa.
Oh, hello. I'm Teresa, and I'm a 40-year veteran of the Air Force. And I've been rather separated from the veteran community. It's what I find with a lot of veterans, male and female, that once we get out, we just kind of like go on with life, and didn't have too much contact with veterans, or if they were veterans, we didn't know they were veterans, especially females, because they don't identify themselves as veterans. And I've even met a female veteran who said she didn't know she was a veteran, until a few years ago. And she's been out, 20-some years, 30-some years, but she didn't know she was a veteran because she didn't go to war. And as for me, I've been more in the academic field, teaching and working with kids, a lot of work with kids. And so it seems that things have moved me around where this past year, I would say, I've gotten more involved with veterans. It's like God moved me back into the veteran community to get more involved because he knew it was something I would be passionate about. Mm-hmm. Once you lose your passion for something, it becomes a drudgery. And I had kind of lost my passion for the teaching. I still love teaching, but where I was at, it wasn't motivating me enough. So when I was moved back into working with veterans, I found that was my passion was there again, because I want to see people helped. I want to see people get out of situations that they're in. And so this past year has been a blessing to me, and not just to the people that I was able to help by referring them to the resources to see them get off the streets, to get into housing, to get benefits, to whatever it was that they need to get health care. So, I know it's something that I love doing, and, doors open because of that passion. I believe other doors open as a result of us even being on your show, because it's like anything that had to do with working with the veterans, I was there, always ready to, volunteer, come in and do this and going that extra mile for veterans. So, and then having a chance to meet Irene has opened the door where I get a chance to meet more women veterans, because I was meeting a lot of male veterans. So I'm still working it, and we can see how much more we can be of assistance to the veteran community, working with Veterans Resource Corps, which is what we're expanding and trying to make it even better. And that's what I hope that we can do.
Okay. With your show?
Right, yeah.
Yeah. Because hopefully you're looking towards 215, the year 2015, to do your own weekly show. Do you think a show like this for veterans would be more valuable to them? What time of the day? What day? Because that's something to think about. I know it's a lot of veterans in the Skidrow area, and they utilize the resources down there during the day. But one good thing is that always can go into the archives to pull up that kind of information.
Yeah. I don't know. I hadn't really thought about.
I haven't thought about that either.
A weekend show or something like that, which would be, in terms of it, would be more conducive for.
I guess we'll have to take a poll and find out. We'll have to take a poll from our veterans and find out, when they would think would be a good time.
Yeah.
Right.
To listen
and
to.
watch the show. So.
Yep. And also, when we had Reverend Murray on it, Reverend Cecil Murray, former pastor of the Fame Church, he mentioned something I keep thinking about, a concept of developing veterans programs in each one of these churches. Develop some kind of concept or format that we can push out to the churches so they can start seeking out the veterans in their congregation and in their community. Maybe that's something that you guys can also look at. I'd like to play a clip from a little short 4-minute speech clip, a 4-minute speech, 4-minute clip from that speech talking about veterans issues and homeless veterans. Then we'll come back to a quick community calendar, and then we'll go into your section.
Okay.
I'd like to say, now I am a veteran. I'm a Vietnam veteran, 1969 to 71. Can I tell you my age now? And not only am I a veteran, but I come from a family of veterans. Out of a family of 7 males and 2 females, 6 of us served in the military. 3 in the Army, 2 in the Air Force, and I served in the United States Marine Corps. So this is why this is such an important issue to me. And not only that, since we've been working in the Skidrow area, one of the things that we notice is how many veterans that's living in the streets. See, and we're going to talk about that in a little while when we do our monologue. And so what we try to do with Drama Stage School Run, we feel that people talk so much about the problems, that everybody knows the problems because it's amplified. You can read it in the paper and all that kind of stuff. What we try to talk about is solutions. Solutions. What is the solutions to the homeless problem? Now here's what we come up with. Because we talk to other homeless, people who have been homeless veterans, and we want to get their opinions on what do they think it takes to solve the homeless problem. And here's where we at. I think the first step in solving the homeless problem is make the homeless problem the homeless veteran problem. That's the starting point. By making it the homeless veterans problem, you put it on the shoulders of the United States government who sent all of these young men over to fight in all of these particular wars and things like that, and come back traumatized, etc., like that. So we feel that it is also the duty of the American government to finance the solutions to it. Not just the non-veterans who's laying in the street. We feel that the starting point, make make the homeless problem, the homeless veterans problem, get the American government to finance some think tanks where you can get some of the best minds in the United States, get them together, make the government pay for it, come up with some solutions, and then spread that solutions out to the rest of the homeless in terms of solving that. Now, what can the interfaith community do right now to make a dent in the homeless problem? Number one, I'm going to talk about Los Angeles, because Los Angeles is the homeless capital. See, it's the homeless capital of the United States. Not only is this the homeless capital, you probably got more millionaires here in Los Angeles, kind of Los Angeles probably than anywhere else in the United States. But you also got the blight of people laying down there in the Skidrow area down there. So here's the second part of doing something right now. We feel that the three major religions, the religious institutions, can also work with the city to find out all of these empty properties around here, to either buy these empty properties, rent these empty properties, and start programming what the Prophet Muhammad, what Moses, and what Jesus taught. It's right there in the scripture. You know, they started off, the Messiah Jesus, when he announced his messiahship. It's tied into that in Isaiah on what they were supposed to be doing. You know, working with people coming up out of prison, people in need and all that kind of stuff. And brother Umar, he mentioned, it's tied into the scripture of Islam, is also tied into the scripture of the Torah. See, so we feel that if these three major religions rent some of this empty property, start programming, start picking some of the people up that's on Skid Row, start bringing them into some of these housing, and at the same time provide support systems for them. Okay, that was just a little short clip about the homeless solutions. What do you think? Any little quick comments?
You put it down there, Brother Melvin. I actually last month had listened to this clip. I went through the archives and listened to this clip. And I thought you made some very good statements and some very good points that more attention needs to be brought to the homeless veterans issue. And actually, I believe homeless and the word veteran shouldn't even be in the same sentence. Mm-hmm. And if they can solve the homeless veterans issue, they could solve homelessness all the way around, or at least put a bigger dent in it, I would say. Because there may be some people you may not ever be able to get them off of the streets. Depending on how long they've been there, and other issues that could affect that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, you want to make a comment, Teresa?
Yeah, because the homelessness is there, and you have to look at what populations, what particular. We know it's the veteran population, and then we have to break it down. Okay, we have the Vietnam era veterans that are suffering homelessness. You have the 9/11, post 9/11 veterans. You have the women veterans. You have, as we go more into our society is aging, and you're going to have more of the aging veterans. And those are needs that we need to start looking at right now for the aging population, what they call the baby boomers. Where you're going to have, right now, I think they said overall in this country is about 80 million baby boomers. Those from about 58 years old, I think, to 60 something. But from 1964 back to 1946 or something like that. That generation born in, that's the baby boomers. Those are the ones that made changes all along the way in this country. They have had the biggest impact on America because it was so many baby boomers that may cause changes to be happening along the way. And so the same thing with homelessness, they're going to have an impact because we're already starting to see more elderly veterans who are in their late 60s, early 70s now, that are becoming homeless and need that help. And so there's going to be an impact because of that generation of people that are coming more into that state where they're going to need more help. And so the government has to prepare for that. It's not going to be just young men, 20-year-olds, 30-year-olds that's going to need help. I think the elder generation is going to need more help. And so we have to look at all those facets and see what is it. We can't, there's no one-size-fits-all solution. It has to be different solutions depending on the gender, whether children are involved, if they're younger, if there's mental illness. There's so many factors to consider that I think that's why right now they're struggling to resolve the issue of veteran homelessness, because it's not just young men that went off to war and they came back and now they need a place to stay. Right. You know, you have young ladies that went off the war and have children with them. You have married couples that need places to stay.
And that's some of the issues that you're going to deal with in your section. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Let's take just a little quick break for the community calendar, and then we'll come back and go into our special section dealing with veterans.
This is the community calendar for upcoming events. The Roby Theater Company present Dunbar World Premiere, the magnificent Dunbar Hotel, a stage play written by Levy Lee Simon and directed by Ben Guillory. Performance will continue through December the 21st, 2014 at the Los Angeles Theater Center. The location is 514 South Spring Street, Los Angeles, California. It's about the 30s and 40s on Central Avenue in Los Angeles, where the Duke, the Count, Dorothy Dandridge, and Lena Horne perform your favorite songs. This place is the magnificent Dunbar Hotel. For information about tickets, please call or contact the LATC at 213-489-7402 or log on to latc.org. And you can contact the box office at 866-811-4111. Upcoming guests on the Qumran Report, Monday, December the 15th, 2014, from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. We are delighted to have some of the actors from the production of The Magnificent Dunbar on our show, discussing their roles in the play, and also discussing the need for a national black theater company. If you have a community event that you would like announced on our show, send the information to dramastage1@yahoo.com. Attention, Earlene Anthony. The call-in number to ask Irene Cruz and Teresa V. Thompson questions about veterans resources for our show is 800-893-9562. Now, back to our host.
Hey, thank you, Miss Earlene Anthony. Now, at this point in our show, I would like to turn it over to the Veterans Advocates Connection with Irene Cruz and Teresa Thompson.
I spent 6 years in the Marine Corps between 1984 and 1990. I was stationed here in Tustin, California, and I was an air traffic control communications tech. So I've been a veteran for about 24 years, and I joined the American Legion approximately about 4 years ago. And it is an opportunity to assist other veterans who have been going through a difficult transition.
That having veterans work with veterans would be more effective because we can relate to some of the issues that they're dealing with. So they hired our veterans to work with them. So we're like veterans benefit counselors. We counsel them about the services that are available to them, and then we help them navigate their way through those services to get what they need. But it's housing, employment, it might be something simple as ordering a DD-214 or getting their ID. Down here on Skidrow, we have many people that don't have their ID. So we can help them get their ID.
Okay, guys.
Oh, okay. So for this segment, we wanted to talk about housing and homelessness and talk about some of the issues and some of the resolutions that are out there now that's happening right now, and how we can help veterans, with getting housing and what can we do to make the housing situation better, especially downtown, but all over America. But right now we want to focus on that area and just talk about housing and homelessness.
I want to start off with just some of the issues that are out there so that people know about them, and maybe they have some solutions too that they would like to share. So one of the things is, it seems that right now there's sort of like a cookie cutter approach to assisting veterans with housing and homelessness and things like that, where they are looking at them as not just a veteran, but looking at them as a veteran and then saying, oh, well, you need this, 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 and this. But they're not asking the veteran what they actually need. And so that has led to some of their frustration. And as Teresa said earlier, this particular war, there's a wide range of different types of veterans in the sense of age. You have some that are, 18, just out of high school that went in. But then you also had older vets that went either back in or with this particular war, like, for instance, the Army raised their age requirement. So now you had older vets going back into war that were not there before, or is not the norm. You had couples and things like that. So there needs to be more of a focus on particularly what that veteran needs. There needs to be a conversation as opposed to just giving them a stack of forms and say, here, fill this out, and you can't ask any questions until you fill these forms out. And so I would like to talk about some of that, as well as the type of housing issues. A lot of agencies will say, well, if you want to get off the street or if you need housing right now, a lot of them will refer you to a shelter. A lot of vets don't want to go to a shelter. And there's different reasons why. I witnessed a older female vet who had a vehicle, who had been sleeping in her vehicle, and at one of the stand downs, she was offered to be able to go to a shelter. The counselor was going to call, or case manager was going to call, make a phone call, and get her in the shelter that night. And her first question was, where can I park my car? Because that's been her home. And so she was told, well, we don't really have any parking. You can park it on the street. And so her response was, then I'll stay in my car. I don't want to go to the shelter. Then I've heard veterans say they don't want to go to a shelter because there are, and I'm not stereotyping, but there are lots of times there are convicts in the shelters. And as a vet, because you don't know the people there, you have a tendency more to keep to yourself and stay within. And sometimes you're perceived as a victim that way. And so then the convicts will come and approach you. And that's going, as I say, and I hate to say it, but, that could, depending on the people, could lead to an incident where the police are going to have to be called. And so to avoid all of that, because they don't want to go to jail, to avoid all that, they don't want to go to the shelter, which is totally understandable to me. So there needs to be some kind of alternative or rethinking in this process of ending homelessness. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Well, when you talk about cookie cutter, the government, their model was based on a single male. That's what the model was based on, because that's who was going off to war. Bring the young men home. Okay, we're going to get them started, get them married, and get them working and everything. But as years went on, the demographics changed. It was no longer just young single males. And so the shelters, even Skidrow area, was basically for men. It was all designed for men. It was not set up for women. It was not set up for children. That's why there's only one place on Skid Row that accepts children, and that's the Union Rescue Mission. Mm-hmm. There's no other place that accepts children because it was not designed for children. This was an area that was single males. Mm-hmm. And at one time it was single white males that didn't have jobs, who came through the Depression and needed places to stay. They were alcoholics or whatever, and they got their lives back together. But then the demographics on that changed. As anything, else does, it changed. And so now the government realized it's not just single white males, but it's single black males started coming in. Then as the drugs came in the 80s, guess what? Who else started coming? Women started showing up. Right. It was like, okay, what we're going to do with these women? We got to do something with the women. And then you start having families. And it's only within the past 5 or 6 years that the Union Rescue Mission started accepting families. So just like this changed, the government has to see that change within their demographics of veterans. They have to do the same thing. They have to make some changes. They have to have the resources available. And they've made some changes, but there's still a lot more that needs to happen. Right. Because when you talk about a married couple that one of them is a veteran, or either both of them could be veterans, but there's no place where they can stay together as a married couple. They will have them. One may stay on one floor and the other one stays somewhere else. But the government hasn't taken that into account of a couple that can be together without children. Now, they've made some accommodations for married couples that have small, young children. Mm-hmm. But then they didn't make accommodations for women, because I had a lady to tell me the other day, she had teenage children. She's a veteran. They could find a place for her. Oh, well, we got this room over here we can put you, but your children got to go somewhere else. Are you crazy? She wasn't going to separate from her children. Right. So she had to go back and say no. She said they did couch surfing, her and her 2 kids. They did couch surfing because there was no place where they could be together as a family. And so the government has to rethink all of that. And they haven't taken that into consideration. That's why you have married couples that are saying, well, we want to be together, so we'll just sleep in a tent outside on the ground so we can be together, because there's no place where we can be together. The government still hasn't taken that into consideration. Or another couple might say, well, we'll just stay separated until we can get together, in our own place. And so all of that contributes to the housing. And then the elderly, okay, we have some places available for the elderly, whether they're single, But if they're married, what happens? I had one lady that came to us. Her husband, they had housing, and he had a stroke, went into the hospital. Well, when he came out, he was in a wheelchair. They couldn't live in the same place. The government did not help them. The VA did not help them. So when he was able to leave the hospital, there was nowhere for him to go. And she told them, well, we need some kind of help. We need VASH. We need something. But there was no help for them because of the fact they said, well, he can go home. Well, we have no home because he's in a wheelchair now.
He's in a wheelchair.
So he has to have accommodations for that, and we don't have the money for that. And so, we had to refer her to some of the directors of the program, different programs, and put them on the job to see what they could do to help her and her husband, because she wound up living in some little single SRO room for a while her husband was at the VA discharged, but in the area, the resting area where they put him in another area that they put him in after he was released from the hospital, where he could stay there. But they couldn't get together. The government didn't have no place to put them.
And they don't understand. They're each other's, a couple, that's each other's, they're each other's support system.
Right.
So if you break up that support system, that leads to a whole nother level of stress, anxiety, depression, because they don't have that person that they've been depending on. Even though they may have been in tough times, if they have each other,
right,
they still have that love for each other that carries them through, which we talk about a lot, particularly down south and things like that. That love will carry you through the tough times. And so when you break those couples up, you're doing I know they want to say they're doing good, but you're actually doing a lot of mental damage to those two people.
All right. And that's why the couple I told you about, that they said they would rather live in their tent because together they could survive. They can go to the showers or to wash clothes, or you stay here while I go get this here. You watch this. And, if we go to the library, we'll put the things here. You can watch them and I'll go get this or whatever. And then you can go in, da-da-da. But it because they had that support for each other, and they didn't want to be separated. Sure, we could have put him in a 2-year program, a single room. Well, it's a single room. Let him and his wife use that single room until they could get back on their feet. But they couldn't get back on their feet because they're too busy trying to survive the homeless state that they were in. And so the government has to come in and start taking a new look and make some other changes. There has to be some changes made that will accommodate these various groups that we have. And I just know in the next, 5 to 10 years, when you're going to have more baby boomers reaching that retirement age, that there's going to be even more, because a lot of them haven't planned for retirement. Like one guy, he was 69 years old, and he was telling me, he said, I never expected to live this long. He had been a gang member, living the wild life, And, when he got out the service, he said, I remember riding the bus home, and he said, I threw that discharge paper out the window, and, he was free from the service. But here he is, you're 69, 70 years old now. And he said, I just never expected to live this long. So how many more of those people do you have out there that are saying, I never expected to live this long? And now, you need help from the government, and your status as a veteran is the way to get that help.
Right. Well, you said something interesting with respect to getting out and going on about your life. I think before when we talked about jobs, getting a job, and you felt some vets that I know felt that they should have been able to get a job once they got out, because of the type of training that they received while they were in the service. So it should not have been a problem. And but it ended up being a problem for a number of different reasons. But the baby boomers, they are, their numbers are rising every day.
Mm-hmm.
And not only that, but they actually have a lot of economic power to channel where things, different solutions and different things that are being produced throughout the country. A lot of those baby boomers have a lot to do with it. Then you have veterans like myself. I didn't have a GI Bill. So when I got out, I couldn't go to school. I didn't have a GI Bill. And I've told that to other vets, and they're like, "What do you mean you didn't have a GI Bill?" It was after because I came in after Vietnam.
Mm-hmm.
And so we didn't get a GI Bill.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't, and I believe the GI Bill that they have now didn't take effect right away. It was after a period of time that the Gulf War started, and they started to come back, that the GI Bill was reestablished.
Oh, okay.
So there's a lot of different issues. That's why I said this cookie cutter approach to helping vets is not working. And there are entities that are noticing that it's not working, but they don't have the solution. They don't know where to start with the solutions. And I think a lot of that is because they've been looking at things on paper and not actually talking to vets, hearing their stories and what has happened to them. Because some vets that we know and have worked with, when they told their stories to different people, the people looked bewildered. Mm-hmm. They were like, "What do you mean?" And they're saying, and this is maybe a government entity or upper level manager in one of these programs. They're like, "What do you mean? That wasn't supposed to happen." And a lot of times it's because you're looking at what's on paper. Things can look good on paper, right, but then reality is something else. And I think they need to look more to reality and actually hear those veterans' voices. To give you an example, it's a female vet that I know that not too long ago, earlier this year, was promoted to captain. She's a active duty reservist, and she was living in transitional housing, and so she had to go away for her duty, right? Because she's still on active reserve. When she came back, they kicked her out of the program for being gone. Now that shouldn't happen, because they knew when they took her into the program that she was an active duty reservist. Mm-hmm. So there has to be some kind of give and take. There has to be some policy changes. There has to be some new legislation that needs to be introduced to address these types of things. Because if you're in the business, you're saying you're preventing homelessness, and a vet has to go and fulfill their duties, and then when they come back, you've kicked them out of their home, then you're not helping. You're part of the problem.
Right. And it's those type of organizations that are, doing those things that requires the government to be more involved. Don't just give money to an organization because they say they're helping veterans. How are they treating the veterans? Because, like I was sharing with you, I have a veteran that he moved into a grant per diem program, which we know is where the government pays that organization for providing the housing for that vet and even the meals for the vet. And so he was given a referral to one program, but when he went to the VA, they sent him somewhere else to this other housing place. And he had problems from the very moment he got there. It seems like things were happening with the case managers, and it just wasn't working for him. And so I said, well, let's try to get you into where I originally wanted you to go. And he was ready to go. And I had talked to the program director, got things set up for him. And he decided, well, no, I might as well stay here. Because why? He had fear. He was afraid that he would lose his grant per diem. I said, they can't take it away from you because you're dissatisfied over here. And so he stayed, but it just got worse. And just recently, he had found a job. Now, they didn't have to pay. And when he got into the program and everything, there was no payment required. He finally found a job and had started working. But one day, he had a severe medical issue. He couldn't barely walk. He called me and said, should I go? I need to get to a hospital or something. Should I go to the VA or whatever? And I gave him some suggestions. He got to the VA hospital and everything. But what had happened to his body was he couldn't work. The doctor told him he couldn't work anymore. And so he had to stop working. Now they're telling him, well, we started this program. They've implemented a payment plan, payment for the veterans. And they're requiring the veterans to pay a certain amount of money each month. And he was concerned that he couldn't pay it because I'm not working now. And now they're saying we got to pay. And he was really upset and distressed. In fact, I almost wanted to play his message on my phone so people could hear that how serious this is, because you could hear the depression in his voice. And that's somebody I have to lift up in prayer, because he was getting so distraught because of the fact, he said, I don't know what they're going to do. I asked the case manager, he said, well, 2 weeks before I leave, they'll tell me what I can do, or they'll try to work with me. And then I get another call saying, well, they're saying if I don't have the money to pay, they're going to kick me out in the streets. And I don't want to be out in the streets. Well, he doesn't want to be out there. What vet does? What person does? What human being does? But this is the way the veterans are being treated in the housing. And so I think that's very important that the government starts looking into how veterans are treated. How are they treated in that place? How are other people treated in that organization? But mainly our veterans, 22 veterans per day. That's high to me. When I first read that, I was just totally shocked. 22 veterans a day are killing themselves. And I know there's PTSD, there's MST, there's a brain trauma, traumatic brain injury. I mean, I know there's different things. But it's just, to me, when you have a veteran who's trying to get his life together, trying to get things together, and then they're telling you, oh, we're going to put you out. No. And then he asks for a recommendation to the other program that I had tried to get him into, or either to the VA. And the case manager refused to give him a referral. So we have issues that, because if we're the only game in town, you think it's okay to mistreat another human being. That's not right. I mean, the government should have people that come in undercover. They need to come in, move in undercover,
and let's see how they're secret treated. Shopper.
Right. Like they have the secret shoppers, have secret veterans come in undercover and see how the veterans are treated, see how that veteran is treated. At each one of these shelters around here, to see how people are being treated or mistreated in the places that they're placed. The government is providing money for you to take care of them. And what are you doing? You're doing things to cause distress that may cause them to take a gun and put it to their head, or to take some pills. So that's one of those issues that we have to talk about it. And I think this is a great outlet to talk about it and bring attention to it, because as long as no one is saying anything about it, these organizations around here who can get away with stuff like what they're doing, they will continue doing it. I don't care how big they are. Okay, Goliath failed. Okay, and so some of these organizations who think they're so big and they're untouchable, no, they can fall too. And they may need to fall in the sense of being closed down, because I've heard some horror reports. We're not going to name any names right now, but later on we're going to name some names, okay? We're going to bring it out to the open. Who's mistreating vets? How are you stealing their money? You're stealing their food stamps. You're taking their cars. You having their cars towed. I'm telling you, I've heard some horror stories that from veterans living in a certain particular one that I'm thinking of right now that they just had to leave because the mistreatment was so bad. So they don't need to come from fighting a war, having survived war, and then come to a place to be mistreated. So that's another element in the housing market that we have to look at even deeper. And I think, to be something good that we can bring up and bring people online or in the studio who can share the stories.
Share their stories, right.
Of what they've experienced at the hands of these shelters or other places. And people may not like that, but somebody have to speak up. Somebody have to bring attention to it.
Now, as a disclaimer, I don't want people to think that all the people that work at these agencies are mistreating veterans.
Right, no, it's not everybody.
It's not everybody, because I know from experience, I've taken time to find out different people who are actually doing the job that they are paid to do for. And I will send a vet not just to an agency. I will send a vet to a particular person at that agency who I feel knows their stuff, will understand, respect. That respect is very important.
Right.
Understand, respect, and listen to the vet and assist them. So just as a disclaimer, I don't want to say that they're all
it's
bad.
Just accountability for those who are the bad seeds.
Yeah.
I would like to ask you about what's something you was talking about earlier, and to know about what is the housing situation, what's the situation with same-sex veterans couple? How do you deal with any of that yet?
We've had the experience of one same-sex couple that came to us, two men. They had been living in someplace in Koreatown, I think, or somewhere.
Both veterans?
Both veterans. No, one of them was a veteran. The other one wasn't. Now, they weren't married. They were just a couple, and they wanted to be together. But there was nothing we can do for them because none of the shelters, no.
We'll take.
No, they don't tolerate that. So they could have a place to stay, but there is no place for them to be together, in the same room or whatever they wanted. That was impossible, and that too can create more problems, when you talk about providing housing for couples. Traditionally, we know it as male and female, but since our society has, members of our society have decided that it's okay to change what was from the original creation to something different, then it creates problems all along the way. In every field, in every area of our lives, it creates changes. It creates problems. And, it creates confusion.
But did the military move away? Did they move away from what's that don't ask, don't? Do they still deal with that? The don't ask, don't tell? What is that?
Yeah, the don't ask, don't tell. It's still there.
Some people were discharged out of the military because of it. But I don't think there's been any real resolution.
In terms of benefits
right. Now, I have seen same-sex couples as far as women actually attending military functions together. But like Teresa said, one is a vet and one is not. I haven't really experienced where both of them are vets. So I don't know. That's something we'll have to revisit that.
Yeah, because we getting ready to work with it's a veteran organization that's up in Brentwood that we want to work with, and the person that runs the organization is a veteran. Have great resources. It's only been in existence, I think, a little over a year. And it's going to be interesting to see how that develops throughout the veterans community once they come outside of the service. But like you say, some states recognize, some states don't. And I guess that would affect veterans all over. Now, how about veterans coming out of prisons?
They have housing for veterans. They can get into the grant per diem programs. If they're on what is it?
Parole,
or if they are.
Yeah, they have housing for them if they're on parole where they can go.
And they have places specifically designed for those veterans. So that's one of the population that they are. They know they have a need for that, So they have addressed it, but it's not. They can do more on that also. It's still something that they just got to work out so much stuff, with the change in society and the creation of so many different facets in our society of different members in different situations. It just got the government probably scratching their head like, what are we going to do? We got this, now we got this, and now we got this, and now we got that. So they have to
Because I know at one time the county jail had a program in which when veterans coming out of prison, getting ready to go to prisons, or veterans who go do county time, they had a list and they would send them all out to Linwood. I don't even know if that situation is going on now, but all of the veterans that would catch any kind of case, they would identify them and they would send them out to Linwood. And the VA was connected with that Linwood program to try to get veterans and stick them into different programs, retraining and all of that.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if that's still in existence.
We'll have to look into that and bring that up at another time.
Okay. We're winding down. That time shot by.
It ran away.
Well, for the veterans, homelessness, when you're talking about housing and homelessness, they created a definition for what defines a person as being homeless or a veteran as being homeless. And one of the problems we have found out is that you have different organizations that define that differently. You have one group might say that based on the McKinney-Vento Act under HUD, basically it tells you that a homeless individual is one who's living in a place that's uninhabitable. It's by humans, not supposed to be habitated by humans. If you're living in transitional housing or a shelter. But then what happens is they want to say, well, if you're not chronically homeless, you're not eligible. But we found out today that that's not true. You can be you don't have to be chronically homeless to be eligible for certain programs. And that's where the that's part of the misinterpretation that we need to check into.
Can you give us a contact information? Just say we got a veterans out there that hear this and they homeless and they want to call somebody to move them through the process. What is the contact? Can you give them a contact number that could start them off?
For the Veterans Resource Corps, the number they can call, let me give you that number, is 213-689-2282. And that's the director of the program that will redirect it to one of the benefits counselors to give the help that they need.
Okay, we're winding down. Is there another number?
No, that one. Well, there's a lot of different numbers. It just depends on what you're looking for. I mean, then there's the Los Angeles Homeless Service. Their number.
We also on this. Oh, you want to give that?
213-683-3333.
Okay, and then we also put it on the website, the Veterans Advocacy Connection at gmail.com for those that want to email. Okay, I want to a special thanks to Irene Cruz, Teresa Thompson. Thank you, Miss Earlene Anthony, and for those who would like to pull up some of our archive shows, just Google in the Qumran Report. Thank you, Miss Earlene Anthony. So let's close out. I would like to extend a special thanks once again to Irene Cruz, Teresa B. Thompson. Please listen to past shows of the Coonrine Report by Googling in Coonrine Report. Thank you for tuning in to Coonrine Report. For my host, Melvin Ishmael Johnson, my co-host, Earlene Anthony, may the peace and blessings of the life-giving creative spirit be upon you and upon your family. I leave you with the song Beautiful Woman by Cam Melville and Chief Yellow Mustard.